You're safe to let people go. This is a universal experience that every human goes through. We all go through losing someone, having to give up some kind of relationship, and then the grief that comes along with that. Impermanence is just a fact of life. Nothing lasts forever. And sometimes you have to let the relationship go. Maybe you have no choice because they've passed away, or maybe it doesn't fit into your life anymore, or you instinctually detect that it's just not right. And you're left with the only option of letting it go. And we want to always hold on to a lot of these relationships and preserve them to the best of our ability, but sometimes it's better to stop giving your energy to things that do not come back to actually give you value, because then you're just being drained of your energy. We hold on to these relationships because we're attached, we're afraid of being alone, we're afraid of the unknown, we don't know what's going to happen next. We found so much meaning in this relationship, we found so much comfort, so much predictability. It was a part of our life for so many years. We find a big part of our sense of ego or identity in the relationship, and then when it comes to letting the relationship go, parts of ourselves have to die with it. We have to adapt to the new situation that we find. We have to let go of the old structures and embrace what is new in our life, even if that new experience is just simply adapting to life without the people that we once had, the person that we once had. That new experience can be this grief that we are going through after letting people go. This new experience can simply be adapting to life every single day without the person that you once had. And our experience of grief as human beings, especially if you lose someone very close to you, let me drink my water, is quite intense. The more dependent you were on someone, the more support that they gave you in their life, this is what's going to determine how much grief you're going to be experiencing, how deep the loss is really going to be. If it's someone who you can really lean on a lot and they give you a lot of energy and value, and they essentially really help you to get your survival needs met, losing that person is going to be a big shift in your life. You can think of a child losing a parent being a good example of this one. Or a family that's very dependent on, let's say, the father figure to provide, losing the father. Right? Everyone who's involved in basically being supported by that figure is going to really feel it deeply, because a lot of their needs were met by that person. They were taken care of by that person, and now without that person, we need to adapt to the new situations in order to get our needs met. And not only that, we have that emotional attachment to the person that simply isn't around anymore. It can be the same in relationships, intimate relationships. You, let's say, get needs met from the other person, and then for some reason, whatever the reason is, it's time to part ways. It can't last any longer. And this can be, of course, a pretty intense experience. So I want to speak to the intensity of letting go and kind of just offer you a point of view that isn't very popular. It's not something that we talk about. And that's that the grief process simply takes time, and that depending on how severe the loss is, it's not something you actually really ever get over. It's something that you learn to live with. It's a part of your psychology, it's a part of your life story that's going to be there for as long as you live, and you're never going to fully get over it. You just learn how to navigate life with that story. You learn to adapt to it. You learn to create new parts of you that fit the current context. And I think that we spend a lot of time trying to get over something. I think this is a pretty popular sort of approach. If we lose someone, we try and get over them immediately. Like a breakup, for example, you want to get over them right away, but it kind of just doesn't really work like that. The honest truth is that if you were very close to the person who you lost, there's simply going to be time. And the healthiest thing to do is allow that grief process to actually unfold. And giving yourself that intentional space to actually just grieve the loss. So as we begin to create intentional space for grief, this is where we actually find freedom. Very counterintuitive, because that grief is the thing we don't really want to experience. It's not very comfortable, it's not pleasurable, it's uncomfortable. But once you're actually able to fully embrace this aspect of life, you now find freedom in it. There's a good story of Adyashanti, the spiritual teacher, who, when he lost his dog, he started crying, but in the midst of that crying, he started smiling. And that's because there was simply no resistance to the experience of losing your dog, losing his dog, losing, what was once very valuable to him, a cherished relationship. There was no resistance to the grief, the emotions and the experience, the sensations in the body, the energy that he was experiencing. There was just simply no resistance to it. So it gets kind of strange, where in his case he was able to actually smile because he recognizes the actual beauty of that experience. He recognizes the profundity of every living experience, even if it's ones that we perceive to be negative or bad or unwanted. This is a very, very advanced and sort of mature outlook on grief that requires years of spiritual and psychological development. So when you're actually able to allow the grief process to exist, you're not trying to avoid it in any way. You develop the maturity to fully embrace this and these emotions as well, right? You have that emotional intelligence component. This is when you find freedom. You actually stop burning a lot of energy unnecessarily. A lot of unnecessary suffering occurs in every domain of our life because we're burning so much energy unnecessarily, simply fighting against the situation that we experience. We don't like something at work. We don't like something in our relationship. We don't like X, Y, and Z. There's always something wrong. We always got to be fighting against the moment. We always have to be in a state of agitation or irritation towards the moment, even at subtle levels. We can't just fully open to it. We don't feel safe enough to. And this keeps us suffering. So you actually start reclaiming that wasted energy that you spend fighting the moment by learning to embrace it, by developing a worldview that incorporates that into just an essential part of life, rather than developing some kind of view that says this shouldn't be happening, that this is bad, but more so learning to trust your actual experience of life moment by moment. So you have to create space for new relationships, opportunities, and personal evolution to also occur, because there's a lot of growth that happens with things like trauma, pain, suffering as well. When you lose a relationship, for example, let's say an intimate one, this is an opportunity to get clear about what you want from a relationship. Why did it fail? Honestly, why did it fail? And what do you actually want out of a relationship? It's a good time to actually start connecting to yourself and getting clear about yourself. It's a prime opportunity for really reflecting deeply. So a big part of letting go here is going to involve actually creating the space for new things to come in as well, but not allowing new things to come in to fill the void, allowing things to come in as you can allow them. Allowing new things to come in as they sort of come on their own, and allowing that space for them to fit in your life, allowing the opportunities to exist, seeing them, and also acting upon them as well. As you live life, I'm sure a lot of opportunities will just simply arise in your experience as it's always been happening, and then you'll learn to allow them in as you're energetically capable of doing so. A core part of this that I briefly mentioned is also trusting life's flow. This is kind of the sort of rock bottom of this whole topic that I'm talking about, because life has those high highs and those low lows. And when you learn to actually be able to ride the waves of life, typically through a meditation practice for years, this requires a good amount of personal development, you stop suffering so much because you realize that a lot of the suffering that you experience was your own creation. This doesn't mean that you can't experience grief. This means that your relationship to grief is now psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually mature to the point where you can fully move into the experience of grief, not fighting against it, and learning to just relate to it from an actual healthy and functional place. So you can really just understand that not everything is kind of meant to be around forever. And when some things are meant to go, life is pushing them to go, you can begin to see that and just allow it to happen without always clinging on to someone or something, because that's not an actual pleasurable experience to always be clinging on and forcing it to stay, holding on for dear life. This is a very clear inner child wound where you feel like you need something in order to just make you feel secure. You need something outside of yourself in order to make you feel good. And then that never actually comes. It's a sort of illusion that we play on ourselves. So there's some core truths that simply align with this topic that I'm talking about, which I've briefly discussed, which is impermanence, finding wholeness, not in external anything, but within your own development as a human being, within your own consciousness, and valuing alignment and trusting life's flow over attachment. None of this is hard. If you want the brutal truth, to really master this stuff is going to require years of personal development. A lot of you guys don't want to hear that. A lot of you guys just want to doom scroll all day. Next YouTube video, give me more, Lucas. Next video, next video, next video. But you got to put this stuff into practice for a long period of time, kind of like building muscles. If you really want to get jacked, you got to be going to the gym often. You got to be getting that rest. Essentially, you're practicing it. You're not just watching videos of people weightlifting. When is the rubber really going to meet the road here? So how to actually start letting go? Let's start just very practically. What do I do? So some reflecting and acknowledging, maybe journaling about the connection, what it taught you, and why it no longer serves you. Just having an image in your mind of really what this relationship was, why it's leaving, and kind of what potentially went wrong, depending on the relationship. I'll let you figure that one out for yourself. Setting intentions as well. Setting intentions to actually just start letting go. Especially when it's something that really doesn't serve you, setting those sincere intentions to begin letting it go is a must, or else you're just simply going to always be holding on to it. It's going to be draining your energy. It's always going to be arising in your awareness, and then you're going to give energy to it, and nothing is going to come back to you. It's just sucking you of your energy. Another one is actually practicing mindfulness meditation. A lot of this stuff is very emotional. These attachments and all this stuff is emotions that are actually stuck in the body. It's not as sort of mental and abstract and conceptual as a lot of people think it is, where a lot of people are stuck at. It's more in the body and it's felt. It's an energy in the body that has to be processed and released. This is like the root of it. Moving on is taking time to actually process, just simply allowing yourself to experience the grieving process, allowing yourself to just experience the loss of it, allowing yourself to just have maybe some structured time in your day, 10 minutes, to just experience the loss, however long it really takes you. Experience the loss until you're able to start feeling a little bit better about life again. Again, don't look to get over your loss immediately so you can start feeling good again. Seek to really experience the grief. Seek to really just experience the loss. Really allow yourself to sink into it. And then trust that life will go back up again. Again, it's that flow of life. There's those high highs and low lows. And you got to learn, how do I actually move with life rather than always fighting against it? Because right now, odds are you're probably always fighting against life. This is the norm for most people. How do I move with life rather than always needing to push and fight against it out of fear, ego, and just resistance. So we usually think of rock bottom as a horrible place to be, but actually this is a potentially powerful place to be, especially when it comes to clearing out old patterns, old structures, old habits, old emotions that are stuck in you and don't serve you, because you've kind of collapsed as a human being. There's no more energy into sort of keeping them trapped. It's like you've hit that low and you're just, you gotta confront it. What I'm saying is moving into that fully, not trying to like fix yourself and fix your experience, but moving into that experience fully, allowing yourself to actually experience what you're experiencing emotionally. This doesn't mean that you get stuck on it and hung up on it for the rest of your life. This simply means that this part of you, this aspect of your experience, you're allowing it to exist. You're bringing acceptance into it. You're bringing awareness into it. And this is what's actually going to heal it. Whereas trying to get over it immediately, this is actually just potentially a way to avoid something uncomfortable, and it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. It's going to come back to be pretty uncomfortable. So you're safe to actually let people go. You're safe to experience the grieving process. You're safe to experience the wounds that happen as a byproduct of that. And you're far more than intelligent enough to actually learn how to navigate life once again when the people you love go. When the people that you were always supported by leave. When the people who, let's say, were a continuous part of your life can no longer be a continuous part of your life. This is inevitable. This is an inevitable part of human experience because everything is bound to come and go. So in this video, moral of the story, I'm encouraging you to really get familiar with the grieving process. Really learn how to actually master grief, since you're going to be losing a lot of things in life. Loss is just a part of life. You're going to have to learn how to navigate this in a grounded and emotionally intelligent way, and in a way that actually supports your own needs, in a way that really supports your own being. That's it for this video. If you're interested in working one-to-one with me, you can apply to do so. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.